Hello everyone and welcome to Recording Drums in a Real Home Studio. My name's Adam. I am the host and producer at RealHomeRecording.com, and I'm making this quick online video for you all to enjoy and get a lot of information from in the quickest way as possible. There's no way to explain how to record drums in 5 minutes, so this is really the quickest way I think that it can be done, so that you can get a good result. Now, first of all, everything starts at the drum source. Unfortunately, I don't have the greatest drums. Sound Percussion, not the best brand in the world, but decent enough for my purposes, because when I go to mix, I'm going to use a drum triggering piece of software. So all I really need to do is capture the sound, and that's what I need. Now, if I wanted a better drum set, it would cost me probably 10 times I would pay, or maybe even more at this point, to buy a decent maple wood drum set or birch wood. But for what I have I think this is made in China. Regardless, they record a good sound. Now, ironically, the snare drum itself sounds pretty good. So it all starts at the drum set, tuning, the quality of the drums, and whether or not you use old or new heads. Now, there's an interesting thing. Yeah, I haven't changed these drum heads in a long time. Now, drum heads aren't cheap. $50 for a pack. If you replace the kick drum, that's even more money. So again, the drum triggering is a budget issue. And the most important part is that the cymbals are good quality, because you can't replace them. So what I have over here, I have a semi-vintage set of new beats, Zildjian new beats. I like the way they sound. They're a little cracked. If you notice that, they're a little cracked, but they sound good still. I would use a new pair or an unbroken pair, but I don't have $400 or $500 laying around. Again, budget, big consideration with home recording. On to the next cymbal now. Not the best ride in the world. Again, a budget issue. I don't use ride that much when I'm recording drums. But yeah, if you do, I would recommend getting a better pair. A Sabian splash cymbal, AA. This is a nice quality splash. I don't have an issue with it. On to, we have a Wuhan Chinese cymbal. Or China cymbal, I'm sorry. It is made in China, that's why I saw it. Okay quality. I don't use it a lot, but it's there if I need it for a different sound. And finally, we have our crash cymbal, which is of good quality. This is when they first came out with these. That's why the newer ones say AAX and then like in huge letters and then explosion underneath of it. This was one of the original explosion crash cymbals, particularly the 16-inch model. And I love it. This is a really good quality. Again, Sabian. I don't have a preference for either Sabian or Zildjian or Paste. This is just what I have. And yeah, so it all starts at the drums. If the drums aren't good, nothing else will be good. So on to where we're actually recording, the room. This is the most important consideration when recording drums. You need to record in the biggest room in your house. Luckily, we're under construction right now, as you could probably tell if you looked at the floors and things and all the other stuff around. This is a new addition to the house, and it's going to be half kitchen, half dining room. And right now the dining room isn't complete, so luckily I have a lot of space to record. Now, you might not have that. Normally I record in the basement where the ceilings aren't as high. Having a high ceiling is very important. Ideally, you don't have glass. Unfortunately, we do have windows. I can't really iris down any more than that. I could, but yeah, okay. So yeah, we have windows all over. Ideally, you don't have that in your room, but you know this is a home studio. Home studios are not designed to record audio necessarily. They're made for aesthetics, just like any other house. So anyway, the glass actually doesn't sound too bad. I was really happy with the quality that I was able to get out of this room. But the room is the second I would say maybe even first most important factor in recording a good drum sound, but because of sample replacement, it's less of an issue these days. But if you have don't record inside of a small room box. If that's all you have, then that's all you have. But if you could find the largest room in your house, do it. Okay, so on to the brain of the situation. We have a Delta M Audio Delta 1010 interface. Excuse me for the focus issues. Hold up. I gotta get further back, of course. I step forward, now I gotta step back again. Okay, so here we go. The M Audio Delta 1010. This is cool. You can't buy these anymore new, but you could for a long time. This interface was released in like 1999, and it was for sale up until I think 2010, 2011. So that shows you how good of a card this is if it lasted that long. You can buy other M Audio hardware, or really, converters have got so good these days that pretty much anything you buy will be okay. I'll list some recommendations right now on screen for you, but this is what I use, and I'm going to show you exactly what I use to get what you're going to hear later on. The other thing I have, oh, you know what? I should show you the back of the card, right? Yeah, it's a jungle of cables. All my cables are labeled, so it's easier. They're labeled in a very unaesthetic way. Just a bunch of address labels I got from an office store. But there you go. I have all 8 inputs being taken up, plus a 2 on the bottom of the outputs, and it works. And that runs to the mixer, also labeled. I'll get to the mixer in a little bit. So along with the M Audio card, I have a Fast Track Ultra. Also M Audio brand. And what this is used for is when you record drums, you want to have as many inputs as you can get. The M Audio Delta card, the Delta 1010, has a SPDIF input, a digital input. So what I do is I run the mixing board. See these last 2 cables? Those last 2 cables go on the auxiliary. I need to change my setting on my camera. Hold on. So I can focus. Okay. So those last 2 XLR cables at the top there, if you follow them down, input 910 and input 1112, the auxiliaries are up. The one's up halfway, the other one's down because it was just too loud. But there you go. That runs to the back of this card, which I'll show you as best I can because there's cables laying around here. Okay. Not ideal, but there you go. So it has the SPDIF cables. That's this one and the one on the bottom. And then we have our inputs right here going to the back of the computer for the SPDIF, which is a part of the Delta card. I'm sorry, apologies, my allergies are starting to kick in. But yeah, that's the system. I have 10 inputs. Those last 2 are for the tom drums. I don't use the tom drums too much, so I don't really care for how good they are necessarily. But they are still using the same preamps on this mixing board, which, by the way, gets us to the mixing board. This mixing board is a Mackie 1642 VLZ3. I believe this was released in 2006 or 2007. Either way, a really good board if you ask me, for the money especially. I believe it was $800 at the time. It has, I believe I don't know if those last ones are, no, those last ones aren't preamps. It has 10 preamps. It has 8 outputs, 8 direct outputs. And then, like I said, I have it set up, if you look really carefully, none of my cables are plugged all the way in. That's because I'm getting a tap right from the preamp. This is a trick that if you read the manual, they kind of like hint at it, and they get all their noise measurements and quality measurements from the tap. They don't include the EQ in there. No, sir. I'm getting a tap directly from the preamps. That gives me the best quality. It also bypasses the EQ, the faders, the auxiliary. You are getting the purest tone you can from the Mackie board this way, from the Mackie preamps. Are they the best preamps in the world? Maybe, maybe not. They're good though. They're nice and clean. They give you good low end, unlike the previous generation of Mackies. And you can probably pick up these anywhere on your classified websites or used music gear. They sold a lot of these. They're durable. They work. I haven't had an issue with these. I've owned it again since 2007. Excuse me. And they work well. And yeah, we only have the 2 faders up again because we're doing auxiliary for the last 2 for the tom drums. Let's see. Oh, the speakers. These are Yamaha HS80Ms. Nowadays they have HS8, but you can also buy these on the used market pretty well. Now, you don't need these necessarily, but when it comes to mixing, they come in handy because they are full spectrum. They're awesome. I definitely recommend them. I've been, again, using them since about 2007, and I have no complaints. And I'm very picky when it comes to gear. If you're going to spend your budget on something, your home studio budget on something, I would spend it on speakers because you're going to need them when you're mixing. Monitoring is the most important part. We also have the subwoofer, the matching subwoofer. I believe this is the HS10W. If that's wrong, I'll put a correction on the screen. But this is the subwoofer that goes with those speakers, and it's a good little system, and it definitely has enough kick for mixing and really enjoyment purposes. If you just want to listen to music playback while you are listening to commercial music, then you can do that. So we have the mixing board covered, we have the interface covered, we have the speakers covered. Now, before I forget, the software I like to use is called Reaper, and right now it's version 4.62. And we already have we have everything set up here. We have our what's that? Yeah, 10 inputs plus the mix down track. That's important that you have a mix down bounce track so that you don't run into any computer snafus where it's adding clicks to your audio. I've seen people have like their mixes going and they're trying to record a bunch of inputs. Like, no, you gotta bounce your file, especially if you have a slower computer. But there you have it, all set up and ready to go for recording. So I think the next thing to talk about are the microphones. First, the overheads. This is not a match pair. It's the same brand. This is Shure SM81. I have them in a kind of a ORTF fashion. And if you look, it's right above where the drummer sits. A little bit behind where the drummer sits, about, let's see, about 6 feet up in the air. Good stuff. I would have them higher, but stands don't only go so high. That's another thing. You need to have stands. I have 1, 2, 3. I normally have a 4th one. 4, 5 stands. Drums are not cheap to record. Even if you do spend the least amount of money on the mics, you still need to have all the stands and the clips. And we have clips for every mic, but I'm going to get to that in a second. So again, the overheads, Shure SM81. They are small condenser, small diaphragm condenser microphones. They work well. They sound good. I used to use just one on the hi-hat, and I wasn't happy with the way the other ones were sounding, so I ended up getting my own SM81, and it sounds good. So I can't complain at all. On to the hi-hat mic. Now right now I have the dust cover on the thing. I'm actually going to go over here and take it off so you can see exactly what it is. This is a Marshall MXL 603S modified by Michael Jolly of Octava Mod. And it sounds really, really good. It's supposed to sound close to a Neumann KM184 or a KM84, either one. And that is a standard hi-hat microphone, the Neumann. I'll say this, even stock, the 603S sounds really good for what is essentially an $80 microphone. You could probably get it cheaper used, but there it is. This mic is positioned, let's see, it's positioned right above the hi-hat. Well, it was in the middle. I'm putting it back in the middle now. And yeah, gets a good amount of tone, and it's wide enough that it also picks up the ride cymbal, which is nice. Sometimes that's not a good thing, but it sounded pretty good, so I'm happy with it. So onto the snare microphone. I have the standard Shure SM57. You pretty much see these everywhere. Really, that's your standard microphone. Notice how I have it going sideways. Now, if I end up using the snare drum, which I might, that's a good way. I like the way the tone sounds this way. I like to have a stand so it's not at such an awkward angle. But right now we're using Audix device mic clips that come with the Audix drum pack, which you'll see in a few seconds. But yeah, the Shure SM57. Normally I have like maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches above, but the stupid device clip doesn't really go down that low, and I need to have it at that awkward angle just so it picks up the tone better. That's stuff you got to do to record drums, right? Okay, so for the tom mic, this doesn't matter so much for me because I'm going to be using triggers, and if budget is an issue, you can use cheaper ones. But I have an Audix D2 on the medium and the high tom drums. As you can see, I'll come from the other angle so you can see them. Oh, okay, the labels on this one, so I can at least show you that. Okay, so Audix D2. And I just have them not facing towards each other. Now, if I was going to record the actual drums, I would have them lined up in the same way, so they're facing the same direction to keep them in phase. But the beautiful thing about the Audix mics is that they are hypercardioid. So they pick up tone in an extreme direction, which is really, really nice. Like I said, they're just used for triggering, so I don't really have them set up how you normally would. I would probably, you adjust if it's facing more towards the center of the drum or more towards that, picking up more tone or less attack, and it works well. The final microphone we have is the Audix D4 for the floor tom. And this is the low end mic. They also use this on the kick drum. It just picks up the low end better than the D2 does. And the floor tom does pick up a lot of low end, obviously, since it's a bigger drum. Nothing else special about that. Again, used for triggering because my drums are junky. Onto the kick drum microphone. Everybody loves this. The boom boom. Well, again, Audix D6. I also have an AKG D112 if I want more of a standard drum sound where you're getting, this is more of a specialty mic. I love it because it has more of a modern sound, but you might not want the modern like click and extreme bass sound. It's not really extreme, but It's more of a modern sound. Not everybody likes it. I do. And it's a lot easier to EQ. It's a beautiful microphone. I just have it pretty much in the center. Normally, when the drum's not being moved around while I'm playing, it's about 2 inches away. So, the last two microphones to talk about. The drum room mics. I think having room mics is key to getting the drum, a good drum sound. That's one thing a lot of home studios, they don't do, either because of budget or they just don't know about it. Both of these mics are the very same model and make. They're Audio-Technica AT4040, and unfortunately I can't show you that, but you'll have to trust me. They're Audio-Technica AT4040 large condenser microphones. I used to use them as overheads, but I don't anymore. They are nice drum room microphones, and ever since I discovered the power of using drum room mics, I've always used them. And that's it for the microphones. So 10 microphones. I would like to have an underside snare input. So if you can get the budget together, I would get 12 inputs, because then you can have a spot mic for the ride cymbal and an underside snare drum microphone, and you'll be set. Now, another thing I recommend, again, this is if you're not using triggering, but even if you are, I would still recommend this, because your drums are going to pick up on the overhead mics. The drum dial. This is a nice thing to own. I have the digital one. They also sell a cheaper analog version, but the digital one, I guess the pro and the con. The pro is that it gives you a digital display. The con is that it requires batteries, but this has worked well for me, and I recommend it for sure. Of course, you need XLR cables and a variety of other things. If I forgot anything, I will list them on screen right now. But that's how I get a good drum sound, and I'm gonna play some drums now. Let me try to. If I think of anything when I turn the camera off, I'll come right back and record something. But for right now, that's what you got. Yes, indeed, I did forget a vital component, and that is the Extreme Isolation EX29 headphones. These things allow me to play and hear the click track, the music. They work really well. They're better than, I've tried Vic Firth. Didn't like them. These work really well. I even cut the grass wearing these because they work like earplugs. I wish they had more high end, but I can always put that in the EQ, and I usually do. I put a high boost shelf, and it works well. The other thing is Moon Gel. That's what that blue crap is on my snare drum. Moon Gel is like a dampening little thing. They work okay. If you're on a budget, really Moon Gel isn't that expensive, but if you're on a budget, just use tissue and use tape. But the Moon Gel is a nicer little solution if you have it. But yeah, these headphones are, without these headphones, there's no recording. So I would get 2 pairs just in case one breaks. And if it does break, they have a nice little warranty program, and they have a replacement. I met the person who makes these, who designed these, and he's a drummer as well, and really a great company and a great product. Highly, highly recommended.